Hello, beautiful people. It's Timotha, Lanae. I just wanted to share with you really quickly my favorite alkaline rice substitutes. So, quinoa, organic, and wild rice. So they're both really good if you want to make like a stir fry or things like that. They're super easy to make, quinoa being the easiest and the fastest. It only takes about 15 minutes, especially if you get this Kirkland brand that's already pre-washed and rinsed, because quinoa you need to rinse off. There's kind of like a enzyme or something on it that can make it real bitter if it's not washed first. So this one comes pre-rinsed. So all you have to do is literally take 1 cup of quinoa, if that's the amount you want to make, and 2 cups of water. So that's the ratio, 1 to 2. 1 cup quinoa, you see I'm here cooking it right now. 2 cups of water, and just bring it to like a simmer and let it simmer for 15 minutes. So I'm setting the timer for 15 minutes. Now it came to kind of like a boil, so I'm setting it for 15 minutes, and then you just remove it from the heat and let it just fluff and sit for 5 minutes off of the heat, still covered. So that's quinoa, my favorite. And then I'll also share some recipe ideas that I do with this in a minute, so stay tuned for that. And then with wild rice, it takes a little bit longer. So with this one, it's about like, for 1 cup of wild rice, it's about 4 cups of water. You see that right here. So 4 cups of water, and then you bring the water to a boil. Then you add the 1 cup of rinsed wild rice. Now you do need to rinse this wild rice unless you buy some that hasn't been washed, that has been washed. And then you just add the 1 cup of wild rice that's been rinsed. You add that to 4 cups of boiling water and let that, then reduce it to a simmer, cover it, and let it boil for 45 minutes. So that all the instructions are on the back of the packets. I get this KC's Best wild rice. It's a Minnesota brand of wild rice, but there's all kinds of good wild rice. And this one actually isn't even organic, but I test really well for it when I do the muscle response testing for it. So my body really likes it and it responds very well. So every day I'll usually have about 1/4 a cup of quinoa and 1/4 a cup of wild rice at lunch and dinner, and I'll have it with different types of vegetables. So right here you'll see I have some organic portobello mushrooms. So I get like a big old like 6-ounce thing. This one's almost done. I have them over here rinsing. They're drying off. So I usually just steam these in a steamer. So I just put them in a steamer, and I use parchment paper. I wrap them in parchment paper. I put a little Celtic salt on them. So you see this Celtic salt here. I'll put sprinkle a little Celtic salt, and then wrap it in parchment paper. You see this parchment paper like this. I'll just wrap it in this like into a little pouch, and I'll put it in this steamer and let it steam. And then it gets a lot of juices to it and things like that. It's a lot of water inside the mushroom. So then I'll take that and pour that over the quinoa and the wild rice. And then you could also, you could do onions, you can do all kinds of different vegetables. I have some Swiss chard in there right now in the refrigerator that I made, that I made and froze. If you haven't seen my video on how to make alkaline greens, then I'll link to that below. But that's something else you could have with this quinoa and this wild rice. But there's so many possibilities. But this is a great alkaline rice substitute if you're trying to avoid white rice. Brown rice, it's not necessarily considered alkaline, but it's still a step up from white rice. But my favorite, and what I eat every day, literally pretty much, is this organic quinoa and this wild rice. And like I said, I look at my serving, so I do 1/4 a cup. I'm not doing like a whole cup of quinoa, a whole cup of wild rice. I do 1/4 a cup of each 2 times a day. So it ends up being about a 1/2 cup of each of these each day. If you look at the servings, it says that a serving size is 1/4 cup. So that's what I'm doing. And so I highly recommend it. I feel like it's really, quinoa is a high source of protein. It's one of the grains that has the most complete protein in it. So it's really good to eat for your body, just to fuel your body and to help build in your body. So quinoa is great for that. And wild rice also has a nice amount of protein as well, but not the same amount as quinoa. This one has 7 grams of protein. That's the wild rice. And then the quinoa, you see here, let's see, what does it say? It says it has 6 grams of protein, but the type of protein that it has is more complete. the protein in quinoa is a more complete protein structure. So highly recommend the quinoa. And if you pair this with beans, so if you're doing like Alkaline off of Dr. Sadie's list, if you paired this with garbanzo beans, pairing beans with a grain is a really great way to make the protein a very complete protein, having those two together, grains with a bean. So that would be really nice too, as well as to make some type, just make you some garbanzo beans, and you could pour that over the quinoa as well. So things don't have to be difficult. And one thing that I do to help with just meal prep is I make things in bulk, and then I freeze them. Whatever I can't eat in 2 days, I freeze, because what can start to happen is fungus and mold can start to grow on things, even in the refrigerator. Even when you can't see it, there still could be fungus there. So you want to not really eat things if it's past like 2 days, things like you know, like quinoa and wild rice and things like that. I'll just make them, scoop out enough for me to have it for 2 days, and then I'll put the other amount that I made in the freezer, and when I'm about to be out of the other, I'll take that out of the freezer so that overnight it can thaw and I can have it the next day. So these are just little hacks and tips to help you be able to live a more whole foods, plant-based life, where you're getting a lot of the nutrients you need from foods that are whole and not processed. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be lots of time to prepare, but it's really important to really take notice of what we're putting into our bodies to fuel our bodies, so that it's organic foods and whole foods that our body can recognize and know what to do with them, so that our body can focus on healing and not necessarily trying to digest things that are synthetic. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, I'm Timotha Lanae. Subscribe for alkaline and healthy recipes here on this channel. I have a lot. I have a whole playlist on healthy alkaline recipes that you can check out. I'll link to it below, but then I also will be posting more recipes, so make sure to check that out. But take care, God bless, subscribe and share and like if this video was helpful. I'll talk to you in the next video.